Bro, people are lazy, they're entitled, they don't want to put in the work. It's the millennials, Joe. It's so freaking hard to find good people these days. You name it, I've heard it. Listen, I'm going to explain 3 things about quote unquote finding the right people and a couple of shifts I've helped dozens of companies make on this topic while cranking up their production and getting their people to increase their performance consistently. You see, most businesses and sales leaders I meet are still relying on just interviewing more and more people, putting them through a few days or maybe a week of training, and then they hope that they fly. And then if it doesn't work out, they let people go when they don't produce. I don't know how that's working out for you. But not only is that the most expensive and most time-consuming way to do it on its own, but that alone can begin to destroy the cultural vibe of your team and your revenue. Number 1, when it comes to recruiting, a little less emphasis on experience and more on character qualities and ambition. Let me explain. I know experience can be important in many industries, but do your best to bring in people who show some obvious ambition, some responsiveness, maybe have family or other responsibilities or goals that they seem super serious about. Now, this may just be their obvious energy or their track record or reputation, even recently disciplined background like sports background or military service background. Maybe they're experts in some type of hobby or area in life that shows that they will study and practice things that they are serious about. Strategy 2, this is a big one. Take advantage of the first 90-day honeymoon period. Now, what do I mean by that? I've seen some great new hire training programs, okay, that last a week or 2. And then I feel like they all drop the ball on continued development. And the problem with that along the way is 2 things. Very few people can retain that much information in that short of a period of time. And without making it a mandatory ongoing training in the field or on the floor, it sets the expectation that this is a sink or swim environment. And then time passes by, and then you question why 80% of your people are not hitting their goals or doing the work they're supposed to be, and then putting the blame on them with that too. So here's what I recommend. After your new hire training is done, continue to put your new hire groups in like a twice weekly 30-minute training session format on some of the most important topics they'll need to practice in order to succeed. Some of the biggest excuses I get when I mention things like this is we can't take people off the floor, we need to produce, we don't have enough coverage, it costs too much. But you know what costs way more? The time, the energy, the money, the opportunity cost of lost deals, the revolving door, and the impact that a revolving door has on the performance culture in your company. It doesn't matter if you have sales managers or trainers or team leads. Stop being a busy bee manager on things that don't improve performance and calendar this twice a week or even once weekly trainings and watch the magic start happening. Keep in mind, the reason I said take advantage of the first 60 to 90-day period is because people tend to be more naturally motivated in absorbing during those times, and they're more likely to have the will to train and the will to learn new things during the honeymoon phase. All right, even though this one particular video was about recruiting and creating the right people, strategy number 3 has to do with the fact that most companies bring in a lot of people, of which many have great potential, and then they don't do a good job of developing them right away. And so topic number 3 today is going to be how to boost sales teams' performance in 15 minutes per day. Now you might be asking me, 15 minutes per day? How the heck am I supposed to do that? There's so much involved in our business, Joe. There's so much involved in our training. There's so much involved in our product or scripting. And it's not that complicated. And here's the problem that I find. Most sales leaders spend a lot of their day working on what I call busy bee task items, or busy bee syndrome, which means they seem to get involved in a lot of projects that don't really move the needle or develop their people, right? And so what ends up happening is 95% of their day, they seem to be running around helping with all types of different projects. And then several months later, their production isn't any higher, or their performance or conversion ratios are not better per seat. And so often what they'll do is they'll wait until an agent gets too far along into the game, several weeks, right? And then they'll notice that their production is down, and then they'll want to meet with them and have this like intervention meeting, and that doesn't feel like a motivation anymore. In fact, in most cases, when you wait too long, it feels like punishment, and everybody sees that isolated attention that that agent gets. So let me help you to remind you of the number 1 responsibility you have as a sales leader. And that is, and I mentioned it a minute ago, to develop your people. There needs to be a significant amount of attention and energy going to this. Now, what I'm going to end up doing is talking to you about why it's so important to do some form of this every single day, and how I've helped many companies narrow it down to just 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes less, sometimes a little bit more. But the idea is when you're working on developing your people, and I'm going to help you structure exactly how to do that on your calendar and what specific bullet points to do in order to minimize the amount of time that you need to spend on that per day. The idea behind it is if you're meeting with one person a day, or in some cases, 2 people a day that may be comfortable talking about topics together and need help in the same areas of their sales. When you do it every day, you tend to go through your sales team throughout the whole month. Basically, you're touching almost everybody on your team, if not everybody 2 to 3 times throughout the month on your team, because most sales managers and team leads in a sales environment shouldn't be managing or leading any more than, I would say, 7 to 15 people tops in order to give them the type of attention that they need, unless some of your agents are super seasoned and you don't have to touch them as often, okay? So the number one responsibility to develop your people, not to do tasks or technology type items, not to be in meetings all the time where there should be somebody else in operations. And I know some of you wear those hats too, but you're going to have to manage your schedule according to your priorities. And your number one priority is to drive performance and revenue. And then when it comes to your people, your number one priority is to continuously develop your people. So let's get into it. How do I do this 15 minutes a day? Because if I did it 15 minutes a day and I did it every day, now it would be seen as an initiative that you do. It's one of the things that you do every single day. It never isolates one person. It touches everyone equally with the communicated intention that the reason you do this is to help in any area necessary in order to get your sales agent to produce to their potential, to grow as an individual, and to fulfill your promise that you made on helping them reach that potential when you went through that excitement period of hiring them and bringing them on board and putting them through all that new hire training. So I'm going to whiteboard real quick sort of an example of one of the parts that I cover in the Modern Leadership Curriculum for high performance cultures, and it'll help you to better manage this, and you'll see kind of how it works. So let's just get right into it. The 15-minute one-on-one daily session. So like many things in the business environment, it can get a little crazy. All right, and so what I usually do is I'll work with the sales team and its leaders to find out what their day kind of looks like, and then we'll go straight to our calendar. All right, let's hope this drawing tool works properly for me, and it didn't. So I'm gonna get rid of this. Go back to my drawing tool here. We'll take a look at their calendar, okay, and we have a lot of things that we do that are very simple but very powerful. I understand that a sales leader's day can be very hectic, and there's a lot of things that you might be getting involved in, even with your sales team, to help them produce. But we take a look at our calendar, and from pretty much 8 a.m. all the way till about 12 p.m., we're working on what I call growth-based initiatives. I'm going to put GBI. Growth-based initiatives, which means these aren't administrative things. I'm not using the first half of my day to meet with people about our phone system if I can prevent it. I'm not using the first half of my day to click around at my computer and look at emails and pretend like I'm putting out fires or whatever other administrative duties. Remember, you're a sales leader. You don't want to end up being a glorified sales team assistant, which I see happen in many cases to very highly qualified people. And we'll do our one-on-one sweat sessions. This is up to you, by the way, on when exactly you want to do them. But the idea is that they're scheduled every day. So we'll put them on the calendar at, let's just say, around 10 a.m. Now, here's the thing. This calendar event is shared with everybody on the team. So all salespeople, sales, management, and even owners or executives are copied on this calendar event. Doesn't mean that it needs to pop up on their calendar every day as a reminder, but they'll be copied on it so that everybody understands in the company that this is something that we're doing for everybody. This is not designed to isolate you or to belittle you or to, make you feel like you're not good enough for the position that you were hired for. We made the decision to bring you on board. We should be the ones that are also committed to developing you as an individual, particularly when it comes to your skills in the sales environment or industry that you're in. And so every single day, and I'll give you a couple of tidbits here. Number one, typically somewhere in the morning, we'll take a look at KPIs every day. Some type of performance measurable data that you have. Because when you look at it every morning, you become very familiar with it, and you can start to see the patterns of production with different agents. This helps you to make decisions more quickly. It leaves clues. When you look at it every day, you become very familiar with what your specific individual's patterns are, and you may become very fluent as to what topics they need help with. Remember, when you wait too long to do things like this, there's so much to work on that there's no way that that individual is going to be able to go right back to their desk or right back to a customer-facing environment and be able to implement all of that without feeling nervous or pressure from a performance standpoint of view. So we want to create a culture where everybody's constantly growing. People go where they grow. And since we were talking about recruiting earlier and how that's not the determining factor that I look for in companies, I look for what systems do you have that continuously develop your people and to be badass, basically. Whether you're bringing somebody in who has the right character but not exactly the right skills in your industry and they're a 6, your responsibility is to turn them into an 8, a 9, or a 10. So you need to stop looking to find the magical right people, and you need to do basically the best job you can in choosing people for the right reasons, but then what's more important than that is to develop them. Now, mind you, we're doing these with seasoned agents. There's nobody who's ruled out of this. There's not somebody who's a top producer that is never in one-on-ones. It's for everyone. It is a high-performance culture event, and to work on this team, every sales agent needs to be okay with it. When it's done properly, they're typically even more inspired and motivated by it. People love to grow. So we take a look at the KPIs, and this tells us which agent am I going to be meeting with today. There's 2 ways to do this. You can do this based on KPIs every day, or you can do it simply by putting your agents into a rotation and just making sure that you touch on everybody. Try to move as quickly as you can. You don't want to isolate one agent 3 days in a row, obviously, okay? You don't need to do that. There is a checkpoint I'm going to give you in a little bit, but you want to choose which agent, and then you send out a notice to that agent that in today's one-on-one at 10 a.m., 9:15, 11:15, whenever you feel it's best, remember, first half of the day, that they're the designated agent in that one-on-one, and they should be prepared and on time for that 15-minute session with you. Now, in doing this every day, remember, you're not working on 20 different things at one time. I'm going to move this board around a little bit. You're not working on 20 different things at one time. You might feel inclined to do that, but you're going to have to practice this for a few days, maybe a couple weeks until you become super smooth at it. You really only want to choose 1 or 2 topics, okay, or skill sets that you want to address. If you lay on 10, what's the chances of them getting right back into the field and implementing immediately on those 10 anyway? So you're just creating friction. You're basically creating an environment that leads to disappointment. And when somebody feels that way as a sales agent, they can only hang out for so long before their confidence dives or their vibe just ain't right. And then pretty soon you'll have to let somebody go who you could have developed into being a monster and a great example for others in your company. So 1 to 2 topics, okay? I checked out my KPIs, I chose my agent, I'm going for 1 to 2 topics, and even if I discover them during the one-on-one, and then during the one-on-one, you're going to create an email, okay? Or you could put it into the calendar invite. You're going to create an email with the takeaways. So these are the actionable items. So Joe, great session today, right? Some positive encouragement. Dude, you do a great job with work ethic. You're always here. You show up on time. You're definitely top producer material. Just keep in mind, you're going to be working on the intro in your phone calls with whatever specific instructions, because although you make a lot of phone calls or your activity level is great, you have a hard time keeping people on the phone for longer than 2 to 3 minutes. So I want you to work on a couple of those ideas. And number 2, I want you to work on, topic X. I'm going to put in here topic X, which is you are skipping a few questions I've noticed when it comes to preparing for your pitch. And when you skip those questions, it makes the customer feel like the value isn't there. So just work on those 2 things, okay? And that is pretty much it. You can do that in about 10 to 20 minutes tops a day. The challenge is when you wait too long, again, you end up spending an hour or an hour and a half with one person, and it's draining to both of you, and then it gives you as a leader the impression that this takes a lot of energy. Why can't people just do what we taught them to do? Why don't they just follow the instructions? Why don't they just make calls? How do they expect to make money if they're not making the calls? Why aren't they following the script? How come? You got to stop that. Every time you find yourself complaining about something on your sales team repetitiously, consistently, to the point where it's annoying the shit out of you, excuse me, and your agents, it's just bad energy. It's probably a calling for you to create a system to prevent those things as much as possible from happening. Now, here's what happens. Although you've done these things and you've got that agent coming in every day, everybody knows it's a different person every day. They're going to chit chat when they get out of the one-on-one. How was it? What'd you guys talk about? You want your agent to walk out of this being like, you know what? It was pretty cool. Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was quick. Like, we hung out. I picked up on a few things. I'm going to work on it, today and tomorrow. And I trust my agent to get out there and do what they need to do. Remember, always words of encouragement, playful, sarcasm, whatever you guys vibe out to. And I'm gonna let this person know, you got this, man. Go hammer these things. It's simple. You know what to do. Practice it. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just show me progress. And then I'm gonna set an appointment for myself. This is important because I don't want the agent or the team to realize that when they go on a one-on-one session that they're off the hook for 2 weeks or whatever the case may be. So I'm gonna let the agent know, possibly in the email message as a continuation, I'm gonna do, and this is item number 5, I'm gonna do a 24 to 48-hour spot check. Meaning, I may check your numbers to see if you've implemented what we've done. I may look at reports. I may real quick pull and listen to a call and do a call recording. But I'm gonna put it on the calendar. Once again, I'm back on the calendar, and I'm gonna set a time on one of these 2 days that possibly at 3 p.m. tomorrow, I'm going to do a spot check on Joe to see if he's implemented the 2 things that we talked about earlier. And when you do that, you really inspire the individual to take action. It also lets you know as a leader who's really got their head in the game and engaged and almost appreciative of the little time that you spent with them. Now, let's imagine you're doing this on a weekly basis. Let me clean this up. Let's imagine you're doing this on a weekly basis over the course of 30 days, okay? So let's just say this is 1 month. And you've touched on everyone. You hit basically every agent anywhere from 1 to 3 times. And they're making progress. As an agent starts to make progress, even if it's in only a few key areas, guess what happens to their confidence? Guess what happens to your sales culture? Guess what happens to your ability to retain quality people? These things start to manifest and provide compound returns. All right, so it's not just about driving production every single day and having expectations of your sales agents that they should be doing exactly what they learned in new hire training. You've got to be more realistic. You can't and you shouldn't be in the sales world without having some type of an understanding of human behavior, how people learn, how we should be communicating, how to prevent things once they become patterns, right? Look for these things. So the one-on-one sessions, although they seem very simple, are super powerful. Let me give you a competitive edge real quick. What percentage of sales organizations do you think have it on their calendar with everybody copied and everybody bought in, do this stuff on a daily basis? There's a reason, and this is one of many, why over the course of 90 days or so, I'm able to take companies' production up by about 20% within the first 30 to 45 days, then possibly by another total combined of about 40%. And then we tend to see a lot of agents at that maturity level, let's just call it anywhere from 60 to 90 days, where some people are starting to double, 2x, some people are starting to triple their production, conversion ratios, and income. It's not rocket science. I didn't graduate with a very good GPA, okay? Some of you know that. But it works, and it's very rare in sales cultures. So the old school days of boiler room pressure, maybe they worked for me back in the day, but now that I've been, visiting with dozens and dozens of companies and sales teams and leaders that have great intentions, I'm tired of getting that phone call that's like, can you help me find good people? I can't find good people. You need to understand the reality of things. And the reality in this day and age, and it's probably been like this for a while, but I think it's more so now, is you got to understand that society didn't develop people to be all-stars. Some of you were all-stars when you were kids, and then society and the programming got to you. So it's up to us to make that investment in our people, to ask our leaders to step up in this way and really provide an environment and a platform that makes people feel like it's not just working here for a paycheck. When I work with this team, I grow as an individual. They don't just say they care and they want me to make more money and they want me to provide for my family. They're doing things on a daily basis that help me grow. And because of that, I'm going to call people and tell them come over here. And because of that, the reputation on the work environment of what your people are saying on the streets is going to also grow. The last thing you want is to bring people in, and over the course of a year or two, you have dozens of people that now you've had to let go. And you've got a bunch of stories on the streets about how a bunch of people went to your company. Very few people actually made any money. And most of us ended up leaving and going somewhere else when the whole thing could have been prevented in mindset and in daily functional performance accountability. All right, so hopefully this was helpful. And you don't mind me scribbling on the whiteboard for some of these instructions. This doesn't need to be perfect. This is something you can make a decision on today and start implementing right away in your business and with your team. I don't care if you have 2 people on your team or if you have 100 people on your team. This, when it's done consistently, works very, very well. Even if you miss a few days here and there, who cares? It's just like working out. Go back to your regular schedule, get back on track, and see what happens to your production, revenue, conversion ratios, and the performance culture of your entire company. Guys, thanks for hanging out with me. As you know, this channel is kind of like a redo of a project I started a couple years ago, and it's very early in the game. I'm gonna be dropping, obviously, dozens more videos, and I'll clean them up as I go and so forth, along with the other work that I'm doing with my clients and so forth during the week. But if you find this stuff helpful and you wanna come back for more, please subscribe to the channel. It takes a little click of a button, and I'll promise to come back and give you a lot more gold on these topics and more. I'm also inviting dozens of hosts to be on the new show, Stronger, Smarter, Richer, which you may have already seen. We'll be launching new episodes every month, probably anywhere from 2 to 4 episodes of some really, really powerful people, some amazing people that have great stories. And I also make it a point to invite people who are not afraid to talk about the truth, even if it means hurting feelings sometimes or exposing themselves for mistakes that they've made. We all need that right now. Once again, I appreciate you guys checking it out. Love you, God bless, and I will see you soon.